Ever since Joe Biden took office, we seem to have been seeing a new pattern of anti-gun folks finally saying the quiet part out loud. And now we have a video of a Department of Defense employee talking about how the National Guard could be used to confiscate guns from law-abiding citizens. Only this time, he thought he was telling a hot date in secret. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This video is brought to you today with the help of toddler accessorizing and a dance party downstairs that you might be able to hear, as well as the help of Blackout Coffee Company. They're a family-owned, Florida-based coffee roaster that supports this channel, veterans and soldiers, and the Second Amendment. They have amazing coffee, and that is coming from a mom, tea and hot chocolate built on a foundation of traditional values, and even have partnerships with some of your favorite gun rights groups that are doing some awesome things. So to help support them, this channel, and your rights, go to blackoutcoffee.com/libertydoll. I honestly don't know how James O'Keefe keeps getting away with his undercover work, and how the entire government doesn't have his face plastered on posters that say, "Do not speak to this man." I mean, he's done this how many times now? And I always thought that the whole Clark Kent/Superman thing was dumb, like a pair of glasses alone is not a valid disguise, but the people who have spoken to James O'Keefe have proven me wrong. Because this guy seriously puts on a pair of glasses, and now suddenly we have people giving him state secrets over and over and over again. Not that I'm complaining, because it's pretty amazing, actually, and things that people need to know. But it is truly, truly mind-boggling to me. Anyways, in this case, the person in question is a DoD official named Jason Beck, who believes that the next method of attack to get rid of the Second Amendment is to pack the Supreme Court to rule in favor of gun control, and then use the National Guard for widespread confiscation. Which honestly isn't that surprising, as it's been threatened before. But nonetheless, now we have a government insider actually saying it. Now, Beck is the Associate Director of Total Force Requirements and Sourcing Policy in Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's office. He says that he's responsible for writing up the answers officials give during government testimony.
Meet Jason Beck, Associate Director, Total Force Requirements and Sourcing Policy, Office of the Secretary of Defense.
It's posture hearing season.
It's what season?
Posture hearing.
Posture hearing.
Yeah, so every year around this time, the department's senior leadership basically, they go over to the Hill for hearings on the department's posture.
Oh, posture.
Yeah.
I see.
So it's
like posture.
So it's a whole lot of, it's testimony, it's questions, from...
Do you have to go?
No, but I help,
prepare,
write the answers, that sort of thing. So
you actually write the answers for the congressional questions and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you get to write them for like all the people at the top?
When we're talking about posture hearings, it's usually very high level. So, like Secretary of Defense or Undersecretary of Defense, and it'll be on a wide range of topics.
And his department is the principal defense policymaker and advisor to the president. And while in this role, he says that the government needs to really work on amping up its monopoly on violence. Now, if you've never heard that turn of phrase, it's something that I've only ever heard in my libertarian circles, so it caught me by surprise to hear it from this guy advocating that the government actually hasn't done it enough. So, if you haven't heard this, basically it is the concept in which only the government is allowed to use force or authorize the use of force. So basically think of every violent dictatorship ever.
I would like to do some work on the state's monopoly on violence.
On the what?
The state's monopoly on violence.
State's monopoly, what is that?
It's the idea that the state, meaning the country, is the only sort of legitimate purveyor of violence and coercive force. We're the only ones with guns, right?
Going back to your topic, it's like the state should be the only one that has access to these sorts of firearms, essentially.
Yeah.
Jason Beck, Associate Director, Total Force Requirements and Sourcing Policy from the Office of the Secretary of Defense, says that, quote, "We, the government, should repeal the Second Amendment and take all the guns away," unquote.
Man, they always shout Second Amendment, Second Amendment.
I think we should repeal it and take them all away. Whatever, just take them all. Gosh, there's so many things that you could do.
On guns, particularly, would just be repeal it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we have a need for it.
And this is how he proposes maintaining that monopoly on violence. By using violence.
Jason Beck says you just have to take the guns, up to and including mobilization of the National Guard.
How do we deal with these crazy people, though, that they don't want to give them up?
You have to take them.
So what would be like a federal solution?
But I wonder if you would see a similar solution to like school integration.
Yeah.
You know, where they did have to mobilize the National Guard. How many people in the National Guard, maybe were personally opposed to integration, but still followed orders and made it happen?
Hopefully they would have to follow the orders.
Right.
Because that's what they'd have to do.
Right. Yeah, if it's a lawfully given order.
Correct.
He does make an interesting point that I have brought up on this channel before about whether or not the National Guard would follow orders. And he says that they would have to if it was a lawfully given order, and if the plan is to pack the Supreme Court to repeal the Second Amendment or pro-Second Amendment court decisions with the end goal of no more Second Amendment.
We need to pack the court. Court reform.
Court reform.
Yeah. So we're going to pack the court first.
We're going to pack the court.
Yep. You need to get a majority on the court so that they can stop the legislation. We need to pack the court.
Yeah.
Then it might technically be lawful on paper. Now, I have discussed this with many people, particularly after everything that's been going on in Texas and the whole idea that Joe Biden might federalize the National Guard against Texas. So the topic has come up. So the question remains, would any of this actually happen? So the idea of repealing the Second Amendment in and of itself is pretty far-fetched. But the question of whether or not the National Guard or any military body would actually follow through on unconstitutional orders is another question entirely. Many people would say no, but there's always going to be a fraction of folks that do say yes. And I would say that what it comes down to is the question of how many people joined just for the free college with no regards to the Constitution, how many people joined up under diversity and inclusion initiatives, and how many people Joe Biden managed to root out after the insurrection on January 6th and all those concerns and fears around members who were conservative or had voted for Trump or were part of the NRA. Because remember, there was a witch hunt there. There was a direct and concerted effort to try to push out anyone who supported Trump, supported gun rights, and talked too much about the Constitution. So could they repeal the Second Amendment? I think that's really unlikely. Could the National Guard be used against gun owners? More accurately, would the National Guard follow through on any orders against gun owners? I think that's a lot more possible than actually repealing the second. And nonetheless, this is more about the fact that that is the opinion and ultimate goals of a high-level employee at the Pentagon who writes the answers for congressional testimony and is working on pushing out policies for the DoD. He also doesn't say, well, this is my opinion and what I think I could do. He says, this is what we can do. Collective we, government we. Sorry, government we. Anyways, It's telling and honestly not at all surprising to me that a Washington bureaucrat has so much disdain for his fellow citizens, especially gun owners, that he thinks violence is no big deal and that it would be a good idea to use military force to prevent them from exercising their rights. The point is that anyone who doesn't think the deep state is full of radicals with an agenda is incredibly naive. And no, this Jason Beck did not make up his job or make up his title. He did give O'Keefe the fake name of Aiden Gray, but apparently he still wasn't that difficult to find. His employment has also been confirmed by DoD insiders, and his LinkedIn shows that he's been in his position for 6 years. Other things that Beck suggests are priorities for the DoD, or at least his position within the DoD, is more diversity and inclusion work, open borders, and abolishing the Senate and the Electoral College. He says that Democrats are largely afraid to do these things, but that the government isn't. So take that as you may, and in case you weren't yet aware, always remember, the government is not your friend. And with that, my Liberty friends, that is it for this video. Please do all the algorithm things of liking, sharing, and subscribing if you are new here, ringing that notification bell, and leaving a comment down below. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and happy shooting. And no animal stickers were harmed in the making of this video. When a 2-year-old wants to cover you in stickers, you accept the stickers. Seriously, we got a couple elephants here, we got a zebra, we got a fox, a walrus, and we got a flamingo on top of a snake. That is a weird looking flamingo.